On this episode of the 1004 show, how you can leverage your existing network to grow yourself, your personality, or your brand. It's episode 81 of the 1004 show, and we have the co-founder of Penji, Johnathan Grzybowski. I got that on the first try. Yes, I love saying hard names on the first try. Makes me feel amazing. Penji.co is the website that you guys can learn about Penji. Penji's pretty cool because it came from a business called Waterfront Media, which was your traditional agency that did design work for other businesses. And they realized that the impact that they could make was just a couple of businesses. And now Penji, which we'll talk with Johnathan about kind of what Penji is, but allows people basically to get unlimited designs at a monthly fee per business that they have. And so they can help, hundreds or thousands of businesses where they can only help maybe hundreds a year with the traditional agency. So we talk about why an agency wasn't the right model for them. And he tells us this really cool tool or trick to leverage social media. It's episode 81 of the 1004 show. Really appreciate you guys watching. Let's get into it. When someone asks you what you do, what do you say?
I think that answer has evolved. Before, I think now I'd say I'm a hungry entrepreneur that wants to do good, that wants to provide a better sense of community. While I do all that fun stuff, I'm able to help businesses with us through a service.
So how long have you wanted to own a business?
I don't really think I've never really wanted to own anything. It was never like a dream. It was more so like I've always found a problem and I've always found an issue with the marketplace or some type of problem that was going on in the world, and I always found a way to solve it. For me personally, I think my entrepreneurship journey started when I was 14 or 15 mowing lawns, and I found the issue as well. All these people are paying way too much money for their lawns to be mowed, and they could be paying a young kid. When it comes to what I'm doing now, it's the same issue. There's a huge problem in the world where people are not able to receive designs in a timely, effective manner, and that's why we created Penji.
Interesting. So I was 10 when I started my business, exact same thing. I don't know if it was because I wanted to solve that problem of too much money. I think my problem was internal. I wanted more money to buy video games and candy bars.
Yeah, I definitely did that too. I'd say I bought more like Pokemon cards, hence the Pokemon infatuation. But I also bought a lot of junior bacon cheeseburgers from Wendy's. I wish that I was able to save more money than I did, but that was a life lesson that I learned far too early in my life.
Here, the JBC at Wendy's was the go-to thing.
It still is, man. I'm sorry.
It probably still is, but I probably shouldn't be doing it anymore. I gained a couple of pounds since I graduated high school. Never fun. All right, so we're going to get into the Penji piece to it in a little bit, but I want to learn a little bit more about kind of your backstory. So you're 14 or 15, you're mowing lawns. What did you do after that? Were you were in high school at that point?
Yeah, so I grew up in a pretty part of Philadelphia. I ended up moving from Philadelphia to New Jersey. Ever in New Jersey was my first day of high school. So I knew nobody except for one person. Kind of had to just figure it all on my own. So in order to pass the time by in the summer, that's kind of like what I did. I would mow lawns and stuff like that to make some quick cash. But we did it for about 2-3 years, and it worked well. We went around, around the clock. We did, or all year we did snow and leaves and all that stuff. So we never really stopped working. And I think that right there was how I was able to grow my work ethic to what it is today. But when it comes to like what was next, I was around 16, 17. It was like the point in time where you should be getting like a real job. And my mom came up to me. She was like, you need to build a like you need to build a resume builder for your school that you want to go to, for the college that you're trying to apply for. And I was like, Mom, I'm making really good money on my own. I don't really need a resume builder. I have it all right in front of me. So, she convinced me to go out and get a real job. And, as weird as that sounds, I am actually incredibly grateful for my mom pushing me to do that, because it allowed me to land a job at Apple, where I was able to work for Apple for 5 years. And I think everything that I've learned in business, in terms of like company culture and how to work with the team, has come from my experience at Apple. So incredibly grateful for that opportunity.
College, no college?
Yes, college. I graduated from Rutgers here in Camden, New Jersey. That's where our headquarters is, and that's why we're still here. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but so we're a community conscious organization that's trying to give back to our local community.
Very cool. So I think it's interesting. Your first day of high school is also you trying to meet other people, and I think in business, oftentimes people are starting a new career, maybe starting a business at zero, and they don't know how to get to that first person. They don't know what to do. And so you've done this a couple of times now. So as someone that is a nobody, as you were and have been multiple times in your business career, what are some of the first steps that you do to be seen in the business world?
Well, I can say that my first day of high school, I hope it doesn't go as bad as it would for everybody else in business. My first day in high school, somebody tried to light my book bag on fire. So I hope that doesn't happen to somebody listening right now in their business. So
that would be a bad first day, I would think.
I would say so. You leverage your existing network. Leverage your existing network and leverage your existing community. It could be a really small, tight-knit community of 10 people, or it could just be a widespread community of thousands. It all depends on your friends group and et cetera. But I can say for me, when I first started the true entrepreneurial go-getter, business savviness part of Johnathan, I would say for 2-3 years, I went to every single networking event, 30 miles to 50 miles. If the networking event was anywhere between 30 to 50 miles within my vicinity, I would go to it. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have much responsibilities other than my career. So I went to every single event. I've followed up with people. I grabbed coffee when I couldn't even afford coffee. I found ways to make it work. So I'd say for anybody starting out and trying to get and meet new people, you just have to show up. You have to be there.
What's the conversation at that point? So you meet people, you show up. Who is Johnathan Grzybowski and what is he pitching?
Yeah. At the time I was pitching crap. Wasn't any value. I literally delivered zero value to the other person. If you're listening to this and you're a young professional, so leverage your age. And if you aren't a relatively young age, I think just finding a way to help somebody else is probably the key if you don't have anything of value to present to them. Now my message is a little bit more refined because I actually do have something of value to give. But I think for the first 2-3 years, I just found a way to offer as much help as I possibly could. And I know this sounds cliche, but it worked really well.
So by leveraging your age, basically saying, hey, I'm young, I'm hungry, I want to learn type of thing. How would you leverage your age? What would you do?
Yeah. So at the time I was 23, 24. Obviously I'm 29 now, so a little bit older, but what I did was I just asked for coffee and I said hey, this is what I'm doing in my business. At the time it was a design. We were offering app design, marketing, branding type of stuff. So I would meet with people and I would say, hey, this is what we do. Do you have anybody that may be interested? And you'd be surprised what you can get out of just asking the simple question of, do you know somebody? And what would happen is I would go to so many events, so many networking events, that people would just start to recognize me and see me and notice me, and they would deem me as like the kid that does X. I mean, they didn't really know what I was doing. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy that works on computers," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't fix computers. Like I don't even do that. I do websites and branding and design." But as long as you're recognized for something, it may not be the thing that you want in the very beginning. As long as people can see you and you're putting yourself out there, the connections will happen organically.
That's interesting. I always think that it is important to be seen. And so you were doing Waterfront Media at that point?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I can say another big thing. I want to add on to that. If it's okay. I also use the ability of social media as well. So I remember there's a time where I would be tagged and I would take pictures with other people, and I would just like constantly tag everyone in the picture or if they were at the event. So if it was me and like 30 other people, I would just think about it in my head, like, okay, who was at the event? And I would take like a picture at the event, and I would be like, hey man, it was so good to see everybody, great time networking. And I tagged like all 30 people, and then they chimed in, and then they ask questions like, "Oh yeah, it's so good to see you," da 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 da, and that worked really well too. So, but anyways, continue on with your question.
Nothing like Johnathan Grzybowski, the IT repair computer company man,
Yeah,
at all these events. But
it's got
no,
a good.
he can actually help you with things that he can help you with things that you had no idea about, like design work. So you're doing Waterfront Media, and I think it's important to understand that you did this for a couple of years, and then you made a decision to change that into what you guys are doing now. What was really ultimately the challenge that the agency thing wasn't going to work anymore?
So I think you have to, from a business perspective, you have to look at your personality and what you're truly good at. And
you, the person owning the business personality, or the business's personality?
I'd say a combination of both, because there's some points in time where you are your business, but I'd say we looked at ourselves as a company and we realized that the agency lifestyle wasn't suited for our strengths. So what do I mean by that? An agency model, you're very one-on-one, right? So you work with a client, you sit down with them for 3, 4, 5, 6 months to a year, and then you only work on that project. So all of your resources are allocated into that one particular project. The project can end smoothly, or it can go as far, like we still have projects to this day that we're just waiting on content for people and we haven't received it yet. You can argue that it's our fault. You can argue that it's I mean, there's so many variables that go into it. So that's number one. But number two, we were a shell of a company. So we were a shell. We were literally a company that stood for absolutely nothing. We went to work. We provided a quality service. We were personable. We were fun. But at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling. We would go home and we were like, well, what do we stand for as a company? We would ask the question, like, what do we stand for? And the only thing that we could overwhelmingly all agree on was that we were there to make money. And that is a terrible business model, and a terrible way to do business. So that ended up becoming the reason why we made Penji to what it is today.
Partners, no partners?
I have a co-founder, yes, and 2 founding members.
So it's the 4 of you having a conversation about this?
I'd say the 2 founding members have been there with us because they were with us since day one.
Okay. So only 2 people have ownership, though, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so it was myself and a co-founder, correct.
Got it. So why does that matter? Like, what do we stand for? Like a business, I think most people think is something that's supposed to make money and to employ some people, give some people some sort of goods or service. Like, what do we stand for in something of even importance?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you need to be fulfilled. You need to have motivation to move on to the next day. And there was a point in time in the agency where it didn't work. It didn't make sense. So when we made Penji, we were immediately able to make an impact. So our goals in business and life are to help more people and to grow a sense of community. And the agency was, again, very linear. It was very one-on-one. But with Penji, it's a SaaS software. It's a platform that can have multiple people on the platform and several hundreds and even thousands of customers. So now we're able to help thousands of people versus just this small microcosm of the high-end agency or the high-end business or the Fortune 500. So we're helping those people, but we want to be able to help the hard workers, the people like people who are doing podcasts, the people that are running marketing agencies that are scaling. We want to help the people that are the small businesses in the world or the startups that are trying to create something really cool. So now with Penji, we're able to do all of that and then some. Now we're able to also create our own community here by helping our city of Camden. Camden is near and dear to our hearts. We've been here for about 4 years now. If you ever were to Google Camden, you will see that it is a city plagued by negative press. And we are one of the only startups here in the city. And our goal is we want to kind of change the stigma of a successful startup, right? So like if you were to Google a startup, right? I'll ask you, the first thing you think about when you think of a startup, where's that one location that you think of in your head?
A garage? Or are you talking
Okay.
about like a physical place?
How about like a success did like an IPO or something like that? Like where would you say that business is located?
Yeah, I mean, Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley, right? Silicon Valley, New York, Philadelphia, whatever. But what happens if a startup were to come out of a less popular city like Camden, right? So we want to be that proof that says, okay, you don't need a large city to be successful. You can do it anywhere you want in the world.
And
And
you
then
can do that now because of the internet, right? You probably couldn't have
absolutely,
done that 15, 20 years ago.
absolutely, yeah. But even still, I still think there's a large stigma that comes with successful startups that you have to go to a major metropolitan to be successful. But we want to be successful in our own city, a city that we invested a lot of time and effort into. And we hire everybody in Camden too. So our entire team is based here in Camden, New Jersey. We were able to hire 5 new people this past year, just in January alone, like a basis, whether it's like a full time, and they've come from the city of Camden, whether that's a resident, whether that's a student, and etc.
So I get it, but I'm going to question you a little bit. So are you a charity, or are you trying to fix an area, or are you a business that's going to help a lot of people? Are you all of those things? Like where's the real difference between the agency and what you're doing now? Because it sounds like you're still providing a service to people. You just put a little bit of
Spice.
a spice to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like, why should a business owner even care about doing these things when the other things seem to be working just fine?
Yeah. So I'd say in that aspect, I wouldn't consider us an agency anymore. So we are more so we sell our services primarily to we're ourselves, and it ended up us developing it and selling it to the masses. So agencies and marketing teams are actually our customers. Of course, we're here to provide our services to the masses. But what we stand for is a little bit more than just making money. And that's kind of the differentiation between what we were then and what we are now. We want to grow the city. We have a goal of 2018 to hire 100 students in the city of Camden. So I think if we were to be an agency, the amount of growth is more challenging than what it is now.
People buy customers, basically, right? You get a new customer and they need 10 people. You have to get a new client. And in this case, it's kind of the reverse, where you can get a lot of new clients, and you can be hiring because you know what month to month you're going to have, because you have a recurring business model as well in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, sure. And again, everybody, it has worked really well for us because we are technologically savvy enough to build something this robust. But when it comes to the agency, you're only as good as your next customer. So
Sure, you better hope you get another customer too.
exactly. And the buying decision is much longer, and it could be anywhere between 3 months, 3 to 6 months. If you're lucky, it could be even longer than that. So, with this, we made it at a price point that is advantageous to a company that may be looking to hire a new designer, because we feel as if that's the hardest thing to do as an agency, is to find a reliable designer that's always on time, that's always online, and can provide a quality service, provide a quality work. And it costs way too much money to onboard people. And you may not want a designer on staff anyways. You want to be able to use them as you wish. So
Sure.
we want to kind of be able to scale their business right alongside with us.
So give me the Penji pitch. What is Penji? You guys can learn about them at penji.co, by the way. We'll have all this in the show notes.
Sure. Thank you for doing that. So Penji is an on-demand, dependable design service that helps marketing teams, agencies, small businesses obtain unlimited graphic design at a flat monthly cost. To summarize it in 3 to 4 or 5 words, unlimited design, one flat monthly cost.
Okay, so what's the caveat in there? Like, where's the spin in there? Unlimited seems a little too good to be true. Or are you charging $1 million a customer?
I wish. That'd be awesome. 1 million would be great, but unlimited. Of course, there's a cap. There's always, oh no, your thing fell. So there's always a cap when it comes to unlimited. What we've seen from our customers is that design projects completed for them on a monthly basis, so 10 to 35. That ultimately depends on several things. We will guarantee you that no matter what time of day, no matter what project you submit, we will do our best to obtain that we will do our best to deliver the design in under 48 hours. Right? That's our promise to you. Sometimes it's there, but if it does go later than that, we will be proactive to reach out to you and say, hey, we need more time. We need more questions answered to develop the best possible design for you.
I like that you guys are doing work with podcasters, though, right? Because a lot of their artwork, or that's one of your kind of target customers, are podcasters or people who have something that might be a similar artwork over and over again, but they don't want to have a creative director on staff or someone that might just be making kind of a blog post image. Because I think there's creatives, please don't take this the wrong way, but there's not as much work and because it's more repetitive over and over again, and all you would maybe do is put someone else's face on it, maybe their logo or something in there. And so you can get 10, 15, 20 of these pieces of designs over and over again because and for a lot cheaper price. And I think it actually makes a lot of sense to be doing that, because I have a designer on staff and I think about these things and I'm like, man, like, where am I spending too much money on these things? Like, and so I think it's interesting, and I think it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, plus I personally am a podcaster too. So all of the pain points that you have as a podcaster, all the pain points that the people listening as an agency are, we've lived them. We know what it's like to struggle with finding a quality designer. We know what it's like to have to go on Canva or have to go on Photoshop to edit your own stuff.
Or Fiverr.
Yeah, to get your stuff done. So we know how much time is worth, and so we're trying to find a way to give that time back to you, the customer.
How do you define how would you call it, like something with your designers? How do you define your designers? Reliable?
Yeah, dependable, reliable. Yeah, on demand.
Is that the right word? Like, do I care as an agency that the reliability piece is there, or do I want the best designs for that low cost?
I can't speak for everyone. I can speak based off of what I know. So I think that although quality is important, it doesn't have to be spectacular. Not saying that our quality isn't, because I do think our quality is still spectacular, but I think what is most important is understanding and communication. I think that is what matters most, because if you do a design, right, and it's maybe done 90% but not done 100, the customers or even the agency is okay with the result and might be okay with delivering at 90 instead of 100. Or if they want to complete to all the way to 100, they're okay with talking to you and saying, hey, you're almost there, guiding them along the process to get them to that 100% completion and being on time and being online when they are. I think that is most important.
I definitely think there's issues with agencies in general and
Sure.
how, I mean, we've hired them in the past. I've done one in the past. Like I've been involved in both sides of it. And I can see the challenges on both sides. I actually got a text from a customer last night. What does this mean? And she was about to hire an agency, and basically it was saying, we don't guarantee that the work is going to be bug free. And I was like, well, it's kind of like a car. Things change, right? And she was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, well, that's what it is. I mean, you're going to use this thing for a little while, and maybe you use the brakes the wrong way, and then you have to get new brake pads. Like, that's how it works. I mean, there is people probably aren't going to deliver a buggy device, but things like that do happen, and the customer has to understand that these things aren't the easiest things to get out. So you're also a podcaster. So what's the reasoning? Why do you do that too? And run Penji.
Yeah. Well, I started the podcast before what it is that we're doing now. I'd say I started the podcast for a selfish reason. It was really hard to meet people and to build a network globally, and to give somebody a platform to promote themselves, to give somebody a platform to talk about what it is that they do, I think is really special. It's an intimate relationship that, for me, you and I to talk right now, like I will never forget you, regardless of how many years is going to be away.
I'm a pretty amazing person, so I can understand how you would.
Exactly. And you like WWE just as much as I do. So like we have a good connection there.
Yeah.
So I think because I wanted to meet more people. I wanted to introduce myself to a global audience of friends, able to interview close to, well, I've interviewed more than 150. However, 150 aren't released. I'm able to make so many cool connections and relationships with people that I never thought I would. I have friends now in China. I have friends in Australia and Bali and California and all over the world, and you're not able to do that unless you're using, what this internet, what the internet provides you, what the internet gives you.
Yeah, I think that's important. So is it still a selfish thing at this point, or has that thing changed?
I would be lying to say that it's not a selfish thing. I still think, granted, the way I look at it is, if you're able to, for me, I'm asking questions that are based around the biggest needs in business, right? So in the beginning, it was like very like introductory, like what do you do, right? How do you do it? Like, what is your story? Where are you from? And that's cool, right? Everybody needs that background. But now my podcast is way different. It's like, screw that stuff. Let's get down to what's important, right? Because my podcasts were like 40 minutes long, and now they're about like 30 minutes long, but it's like all quality shit. So now I ask the questions. I ask like 5 questions now, and I usually ask, how did you get your first 100 customers? Because that's like a legit problem, right? That everybody needs help with, because everybody needs more sales. And then the second thing is if you're lost in your business. So those are all 2 core things that everybody needs help with, regardless of where you're at in your business. Even Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, I'm sure, feel blind at some points in time. So yeah, I combo both, really.
All right, so I'm going to use your question against you. How did Penji get their first 100 customers?
Sure, I'm ready for that answer. I'd say it came down to a culmination of several things. Because I did all the dirty work of 3, 4, 5 years worth of networking my ass off. I built a really good community that understood who I was and what I did. So if I sold, I don't know, if I sold hard drives, I'd be able to find somebody that could point me in the right direction. But I wouldn't have had that network if it wasn't for what I did in the very beginning of my career. So leveraging the network, I'd say everything that we did for the first 100 customers is 100% not, and I'll say it again, 100% not scalable. So we did email lists, we did massive email lists. We're grateful enough to have a pretty extensive email list. We got the customers from email lists, from advertisements on social media, through referrals, through community and relationship. So I'd say the large majority of our general region. And now as we expanded, and we grew past our first 100 customers, we're a little bit more creative now. The strategy is a little bit different. You can't rely on your network as much as you once did. You really have to create scalable processes and procedures to get yourself to that next threshold of in hierarchy.
The actual business side of it, the fun part.
Exactly.
Or the part that's really expensive.
Yes.
So how do you further communicate? So you meet these people, you're networking these people, you spend 5 years busting your tail doing it. How do you further communicate with that new network? Like, what's your strategy there on, I meet someone, so let's say you met someone last night. Mm-hmm. When do you follow up with them? What do you follow up with them about? And then kind of, how does that path go? As because it sounds like now that's the process piece to it now. So like, what's the process of someone that you meet now look like?
I'm going to be careful because it may not be the answer that you may want to hear. But honestly, if somebody were to come up to me and ask me like, oh, hey, let's grab coffee, let's meet up, I'm very hesitant to meet them now. I'm very hesitant to even like talk to them, not because I don't want to, because I do, but I'm trying to maintain the focus of how can we scale this? How can we get this to 500 customers? How can we get this to 1,000 customers, 10,000 customers? And as much and as important that phone conversation is, or that meeting is with coffee, ultimately it's not going to get you exactly to where you're trying to be. So I think now, and I'm still working on this, and I will answer your question in fully, but I think now more than ever, I'm more reluctant to say no to things than I once was. Number one, I don't have business cards anymore. So if they reach out to me, like I'm gonna have to give them my information. They'll reach back out to me. So if I do find value, and if I do think that this is something that like it could be a really good strategic relationship and partnership, just as simple as being human. I know, again, it's no secret sauce. I'm sorry that this isn't like the most complex business centric answer that you're looking for, but I think for me personally, I'm very human driven. So I will talk to and speak to them as a human being. I'll do my research ahead of time. Hey, like I remember when I first interviewed you, I knew you liked WWE before you even came on the show. So finding a way to speak to them as if that they're your friend, even if you don't know them and you've never met them before.
I think that your answer is fine. I mean, I wouldn't want you to give me an answer that wouldn't be the truth, right? And I think if you really think about it, I mean, I do the exact same thing. Like, figure out who they are. I mean, that's the human piece of it. Like, if you're like everyone else, guess what's going to happen? They're going to think you're like everyone else. And you have to find those things that make people different. So if you're a card collector, I mean, there's a name for those people for a reason, because people don't want to just hand out business cards. They want to feel like a human. And when you go to events where that's all that people are doing, what do you think happens? People aren't excited about that. And I think saying no is something that's insanely important. I remember a few years ago, that was like a huge goal of mine. Is like, hey, like learn how to say no. By Derek Sivers, created CD Baby. And it's something along the lines of, if you can't say F yeah to something, you won't take, you shouldn't take a meeting. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. So I don't know if you live by that or if you've heard that before, but you should definitely think about it. So if you're not like super excited about a meeting or a phone call with someone or going to some sort of dinner, if it's not an F yeah or a heck yeah, like say no.
Yeah, I like that. I never heard that before. I think that's incredibly creative. I'm going to steal that.
You can. Did you guys raise capital when you did all this?
We are cash flow positive, so we have never received an ounce of funding. We don't believe that we ever will need funding, and I don't think that we will ask for funding. We want to maintain and be as lean as we possibly can, and it's just not. I don't see us needing it or wanting it.
I'm 100% the same.
Yeah.
But I one of the main questions I get over and over and over again, it's probably the number 2 question I get, is I need capital for my business to start a business. Why do you think so many people think that they have to raise capital to start a business?
Yeah. That's kind of like the narrative that we're trying to change, right? So as stated before about like why we're here in the city of Camden, what we're doing for the city of Camden, there's over $2.2 billion, like with a B, $billion investing in the city right now. There are a ton of Inc. 5000, Inc. 1000, Fortune 500 companies that are currently moving or have already moved into the city of Camden. And a part of what they're trying to do is, or part of what they have to do by not law, but by handshake, is hire people in the city of Camden. And I am confident that some of the organizations that have moved may not have held up to that bargain. I'm saying may because I don't know for sure. A not as popular city, if they can hire people in the city, what is your excuse for not being able to do what we're able to do? So we want to be the benchmark and the standard of what the new startup generation is. Hiring internally, hiring within the city, growing the local economy, and being cash flow positive versus automatically going out and assuming that you need capital. To the people that think that they need capital, I would say try and find a way to sell. If you want it that bad, sell everything in your house in order to get the capital to do it. Ask around and try and get the funds for the product that you're trying to build up front. Survey people and say, hey, if I build this, will you buy it?
I think it's because they believe that money, they raise money and then they automatically make money from that instead of actually figuring out what people want. And so it's like if I have this great thing will happen moment. And so it's an education thing where a lot of people, like there's a guy I was talking about. It's he's looking not for a lot of money, like hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, well, ask your friends and family if you really want to raise that money. But if you're selling to people that are buying your services, why don't you just bake in your cost into this thing?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he just responded. He was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, yeah, let the client pay for it. Like that's what it's there for. And then once they pay for it, then you can reduce your costs a little bit more or keep the cost up there because they don't have to pay for it again. And I think just people they don't know what they can charge for. Yeah. So then they're terrified not to do it. And I'm like, well, people are clearly paying for stuff.
I think it's that. I definitely think that a lot of people don't know their own worth. So they devalue themselves. So that's number one. But I also think that because of the way that social media is driven nowadays and hurting the idea of that mindset that you need funding, right? So people see Lamborghinis, people see successful entrepreneurs with like cute boys or girls, or partying and driving nice things and being on vacation. And I think that's a really disgusting side of social media that I'm not even going to get into. But I think that it's that the aspect of social media, like wanting followers or wanting followers more than what you want to grow your business to be.
I think that's, if you think about it, that's just society in general, right? It's the 9 to 5 lifestyle. It's I'm going to get 3 weeks of vacation every year and I'm going to barely work for the man. And that's when people live that life and aren't willing to give up a little bit of something. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, I remember there was years where I've gone 2 years, 3 years without a vacation. Now my girlfriend at the time, now wife, would not approve of that message, but she doesn't listen to the show, and I know that.
You can say whatever the
I
heck
don't
we
really
want.
care. Now if she starts listening, then I have a problem.
Yeah, then you're in the doghouse.
I asked her the other day, I said, do you listen to podcasts? And I said, okay, do you think you're going to get into it? No, I don't. I'm like, I'm going to continue to say what I do here.
Believe in everything that I said today. If you are in need of any type of graphic design, just to think and consider Penji as a viable solution for yourself and for your business. Say again?
Keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, if you need any, or if you have any problems or at all, you can email me directly. It's Johnathan@penji.co. It's JOHNATHAN at penji.co, and the website's penji.co.
Who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
CM Punk.
CM Punk. Are you sad when he's no longer there?
Absolutely, every day. No, now CM Punk had the ability to command the microphone like nobody else. If you threw a question at him, he'd be able to answer it without hesitation. And I respect his mic skills. I respect the audacity that he had to fight the establishment. He's number one, but there's a lot of really upcoming people that a lot of people don't even know about. Adam Cole from NXT, Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka. I know we talked about her prior to the show.
So you're a rebel, and that's why you like CM Punk. You like that he went against the I can't remember the word you used, but he went against the man.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say that would be the overwhelming majority in summarization of my life. I'd say I'm a rebel. I definitely go against the norm. So.